So those are two results just in from the great state of Nebraska. I also want to do one more result that we just did a moment ago, which was the Minnesota Senate race. Minnesota Senator Al Franken, the Democratic incumbent there, re-elected in Minnesota, according to NBC News projections. Joining us now is his home state colleague, Senator Amy Klobuchar from Minnesota. Congratulations on your pal and colleague winning re-election.
Well, it was a little easier than last time.
Yes.
Whereas, you know, 312 votes, and it took him 6 months to get there. I kept telling our Minnesotans they can't start chants at, say, 5.5 more years. So we're excited about this, and we're also excited about Governor Dayton. And as you know, Rachel, they both ran really strongly on the economy, on economic accomplishments with our 4.1% unemployment, the fact that we have done a good job in terms of encouraging business and workers, and it's just been a positive campaign here in Minnesota. At the same time, we're very concerned about the races across the country, but I did have to smile when I saw my good friend Jeanne Shaheen win, and actually a victory for the Constitution, which says that each state can have 2 senators, but each senator can't have 2 states.
Excellent. Well done. It's political science in the form of limericks, which is one of the things I've always loved about you. I got to ask, with Governor Dayton being reelected, with Senator Franken being reelected, with you in the other Senate seat in Minnesota, with our dear friend Michelle Bachmann leaving politics, as the rest of the country looks at Minnesota, you guys always get shorthanded as a purple state. Has Minnesota gone blue? Is Minnesota, should it be seen as a more democratic place than it usually gets credit for?
Well, I think it is still purple. We have very close state house races going on. We have two contested congressional seats, and the president, I think, won by 7 points, which is exact same margin in Wisconsin last time. But I think the difference is we've really focused in our state politics and in these races on the economy. And I think one of the Wednesday morning quarterbacking questions will be, was there any kind of a trend between for candidates that focused on the economy, on a little bit on accomplishments, knowing there's so much to go, but also talked about minimum wage and issues like that mattered really at the heart of people in this country. And so I think that's going to be looking at the races in the Senate and see if there's any kind of a trend there is important.
Senator, let me ask you about your colleague who was just declared the winner for re-election. He's found a very unusual career path. He's gone from being a very well-known figure in American life, especially our cultural life. In fact, you might even say a celebrity. He's going from being a celebrity to a non-celebrity. He's become a senator. Now, this is really a strange decision. Most people like to get better known. It seems like he has followed a strategy for 6 years of, I think it was Steve Martin said, let's get small. And he got small. He hasn't done any national interviews. We can't get him on our show. I don't know if you've had any luck, Rachel.
Well,
he doesn't do any national. Go ahead. What's that strategy like?
Do you want me to put a good word in for you, Chris?
No, I just want to ask you. I want to get your Sardi's review of this brilliant transformation from famous national celebrity in the culture world to just another good United States senator from the state of Minnesota. I think it's remarkable how well he's been disciplined to do this. I'm celebrating his victory because of everyone should have a second act, and he has got one.
Well, you know, I think what he's done, he said he was going to do this from the beginning. He put his head down. He got to work. He did things that mattered to the people of our state and put our state first. And that's what this campaign's been about. That's what the election's been about across our state. So, and I do think the fact that we have the lowest unemployment rate of any metropolitan area in the country. We have worked hard to have a strong education system in Minnesota. And the governor took a $6 billion deficit and turned it into a $1.2 billion surplus with the help of so many strong businesses and workers in our state has really been our message. And I don't think it's completely unique. I think you see some other people running on that across the country. So we're happy, but we have really difficult races out there. And maybe I'll be up with you at 3 a.m., Chris, waiting for those Alaska numbers
Let me talk about you now, Senator. Take a moment. Everybody likes you. And everybody in the national media likes you, I think. And everybody that knows you in your state likes you. And the question is, how do you get to be president of the United States? With Hillary Clinton probably running. How do you get around Hillary Clinton? Because that's the only route to win. You have to go around her. How do you do that?
I think you are aware that all the Democratic women senators signed a letter encouraging Hillary to run. We're excited about her running. And right now, what are we focused on tonight? The midterm elections.
It's over.
Including
Let's talk 2016.
It is not
it's
over. This is there is so much more work that needs to be done here with these states. And I'm hanging in there for Bruce Braley in Iowa and Mark Udall in Colorado and my good friend Mark Begich up in Alaska, who has created the best voter turnout they've ever seen up there, more polling places, more early voting. And so we're hanging in on those races in a very difficult map.
You made my point. You are a national figure, rooting for everyone across the country. Thank you, Senator Amy Klobuchar, who everybody actually does like.
Thank you.
Thank you. And by the way, coming up now, Congressman Louis Gutierrez, who's a Democrat from Illinois. Congressman, thank you for joining us. You know, there's been a lot of talk about what the president might do after this election's over, starting tomorrow morning. Do you have any signals from the White House, from Valerie Jarrett or anyone, McDonough, the chief of staff, or the president himself, that he might do something dramatic in the area of immigration?
I do, and I'm encouraging. I've been talking to you and other members, thinking it's going to be millions. The question is it going to be a half a loaf or a full loaf? And one of the things I'm encouraging the White House is to seek fairness and justice for every immigrant they can. Don't try to dilute it with political consideration about maybe the good, plausible immigrants that you think the American public, you know, we raise the minimum wage for all workers. We seek justice and marriage equality for all gay people. We do for all women pay and fair rate of pay for them. We should do the same thing when it comes to immigrants. So my hope is, and you know what? If they don't do it, I will tell you there will be a fight for the Democratic nomination and a fight for the heart and soul of the Democratic Party. And don't expect, look, I just came back from being with Mark Udall all day yesterday. I've traveled across this country everywhere. What candidates are telling me is that it is hard to get the sentiment of the Latino vote
Hang
out.
in there. You're making a very dramatic statement. Let's go right now. Hang in there, Congressman Gutierrez. We've got an announcement to make. This is the Oklahoma governor's race. NBC's projecting Mary Fallin will win that race, and that's a big one down there in Oklahoma. Mary Fallin defeating Joe Dorman down there.
Holding on to that seat, that's right.
Holding on to the seat, that's a keeper. And I want to get back to Congressman Gutierrez, because what do you mean to say there's going to be something rather dramatic if he doesn't do what you want him to do? Give us a little definition of what you're talking about.
What? It isn't, well, I just want, here's what I believe. Look, the president can make a decision and he can say, well, I'm going to free and allow 2.5 million undocumented immigrants to come forward. Or he can be bold and he can be generous and make it 5 to 6. The Senate passed the bill. We are encouraging the president to allow all of those that have been here, that are ready to come forward with their fingerprints and submit to a security and background check, to be able to be legalized. He's got to pick a date. For the dreamers, the young undocumented immigrants, he said they had to be here 5 years before he would allow them to be in. Pick a date, Mr. President, but pick a date that is broad, that is sweeping, and that really fits. I heard you earlier. I'm a big fan of MSNBC, and you said, hey, the president needs a record. Look, the Republicans are not going to give him a record. The president has to stand up for a community of people that have stood up for him. If 74% of Latinos voted for him, 80% of Asians did, and the immigrant community expects a president that is going to be responsive to their needs and to their genuine support for him and the Democratic Party.
What do you say if the president is threatened with impeachment for that? Too dramatic a use of the EO, the executive order. What would you say to him about that threat? Because there will be something like that hanging out there. What would you say to him if somebody says, be careful, Mr. President? You will then say what?
Here's what I've said. Leader Pelosi, we put out there a document this past week in which we have given all of the times the presidents have used their executive authority to intervene and to save immigrant communities so that the Congress can finally get around to taking care of them. So what I would say to the president, you're on good standing. If we are going to allow the Republicans to the threat of impeachment from stopping fairness and justice for our community, then you know what? Why don't we all become Republicans then? And then we can all dictate the future. We're Democrats, and we have to stand for our values and for our principles.
Okay.
And I think that this president right now has the opportunity. You know, everybody said, oh, it's already written, his legacy. No, it isn't. It will be written in the next 45 days when it comes vis-a-vis the immigrant policy of this president. Be bold, be generous, be a Democrat.
Congressman Luis Gutierrez of Illinois, thank you, sir, both for your passion on that and your clarity on that. I think that the thing that is often forgotten in this discussion is that the immediate political calculation gets told in political science textbooks, but the history gets told in the wisdom of the policy that you stick your neck out for. Nobody remembers what you earned in the next election cycle because of it. They remember if it was the right thing to do. All right, we're going to have more on the question of immigration after this. We're still waiting for lots and lots of results. This is sort of the sweet spot in terms of the suspense for the night. Stay with us. MSNBC's election coverage continues right after this.